Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bog Panda, your home of Doom content. I'm Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything, and joining me, as always,
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on social media. Welcome to Bug Panda. Hope you guys would consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you do so, please be sure to hit that bell so you know when new content comes out. Check out the videos, leave us some likes or comments, whatever appropriate there. And while you're going through there, be sure and check out one playlist we have called Hard No. It's the world's shortest podcast. Each episode less than 1 minute, published daily, totally free. What more can you ask for? So check that out. And then with all the money you saved without having to pay for the world's shortest podcast, go buy some merchandise. We've got a lot of fun t-shirts out there.
excellent. Well, today we're going to, as we already hinted, we're going to talk about Doom. That's something we've never really brought up on this show before. Are you a Doom fan, Kelly?
Yes, I am. Very much.
I've been known to dabble myself and play Doom. So, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Doom soon because it is the 30th anniversary of it. And I guess you could say this is almost the start of that because we're going to talk about maybe the most beloved version of Doom, Doom for 3DO. Now, prior to us covering this and a little bit of the backstory, as that's kind of come out from Rebecca Heineman and different people speaking about that, what was your level? I mean, I know you're a Doom guy. What was your level of interaction with the 3DO port of Doom?
I had thankfully never crossed paths with the 3DO version of Doom until are doing some of our crack research as we go through the various nooks and crannies of the world, and we came across uh, all the interesting commentary on the 3DO version of Doom, which one would have thought, based on the press releases, things coming forward, was going to be the most famous, awesome version of Doom ever. Didn't quite turn out that way,
Not exactly.
and so I knew nothing of it until we started digging in a little bit more. And what a fascinating story it is.
I was aware of it. I knew it existed. I was always fascinated by the 3DO, but it was released at just such a ridiculous price point. I didn't know anyone who had one. I had played a couple of 3DO games like in stores at kiosk setups and things. And they never, at least the ones that I played at the time, weren't spectacular. They were fine, but they weren't, let me drop a couple $1,000 on this system in a few games, fine, which is what you were talking about. It was $700 for the core system back then, which would be well over $1,000 in today's money, plus games and controllers and all that. It was a lot of money to put into it. One thing I'll say, I've been playing a lot of 3DO games lately. Really understanding the system. One of its strengths, before we kind of touch on the, maybe weakness or two of the Doom port, one of the system's strengths in across the board is the audio. I'm not enough of a tech guy or a hardware guy to be able to explain why the audio was so much better in 3DO than a lot of the other CD based systems at the time. But it had not just CD quality audio, but they seemed to really pay a lot of attention to it. And a lot of games had redone scores for them completely. I would say one of the best examples would be another id Software game, Wolfenstein 3D, that had a full orchestra score redone for it. So, I mean, just really impressive audio stuff going on. So now let's talk about some of the unimpressive stuff before we get back to the good thing about Doom. Doom was ported for 3DO in a couple of weeks by one person, and it shows when you do that. If anything, I would say, to Rebecca Heineman's credit, it's Doom. It looks like Doom. it's it's a game. There's a whole game on there. And honestly, that's pretty impressive for one person with no resources to be able to accomplish anything that kind of looked like Doom on there. One thing she was able to outsource to the owner of the company that had made the promises Kelly was speaking of that they could never deliver on, of all the extra content and things that were going to be in this version of Doom. And I actually remember, because I was really into video game magazines at that time, and I remember that coverage in video game magazines and like photos of their video shoot they were doing for all this full motion video stuff to give Doom Guy a backstory. and all of that, that of course didn't exist. None of that was possible. So one of the things she was able to outsource, though, is the same guy who made all these promises was in a band. And in order to save time and, of course, get the soundtrack up the CD quality, she said, hey, why doesn't your band re-record these songs? And they did. And it's good. It's a really good soundtrack. In fact, it's easily the highlight of 3DO Doom without question. So now you've played a little bit of 3DO Doom now. What's your overall takeaway?
Yeah, so great soundtrack. So I mean, so there's that. And so and we're going to include, it'll be likely the recommended video at the end of this video, where we went in depth on the trials and travails of 3DO Doom. But one of the biggest challenges is under that short window to get the game out, there were frame rate issues. It was just to really get the game to play well, the optimizations you need to do, there just wasn't time to sort all that out on the 3DO architecture, even with kind of that Jaguar based, well, they had secured the Jaguar base and they had the information, but I don't believe that was shared with the developer, which is a little bit unfortunate. So that resulted in having to really dial down the size of your screen to make it playable. Particularly anytime there were multiple enemies on the screen at one time, you could kind of do a flip book, picture book kind of process if you were
A very slow flip book.
And so that was not so good. So you know, it you just can't get past what you had to do to make it playable. But you know, at that postage stamp size resolution, looked pretty good to me. You know, from what I could see, played well once you shrunk her down. But again, sounded great.
Yeah, if you basically want to break the game, just put it on Nightmare so that there's a bunch of enemies, make it full screen, and watch it turn into a slideshow, a very slow moving slideshow, because it'll almost immediately happen. But yeah, as Kelly mentioned, it is based off of the console, the official console version of the game, which is the Atari Jaguar version that became sort of the base for most versions of the game. Now, the original PC version of Doom, the soundtrack has become kind of infamous now. It was really cool. I remember really enjoying the PC music at the time. Also noticing some of the melodies seemed a little bit familiar, but I was just so into the game, it didn't immediately strike me how familiar some of them were. Basically, they made unofficial MIDI covers of Slayer and Pantera songs and things like that, which very quickly were sort of outed. I don't know whatever came of that, but there is quite a bit of new Doom soundtrack stuff as the ports started to come out. Maybe related, maybe not. I don't really know whatever came of them basically stealing music for Doom, but the PC Doom was still cool and it still sounded really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, again, 3DO sounds great. So this does take advantage of the one thing, if nothing else, that 3DO is awesome at, is making games sound good. Having a live band re-record those songs, and more importantly, not just re-record the unofficial covers that they had done, but not really stick too closely to them either. It kind of gets the main, the main structure of the songs in there and some recognizable riffs, but they really just kind of go off and do their own thing. And I think that's the strongest thing of this soundtrack.
Yeah, I agree. And it is I mean, it's definitely for particularly a couple tracks, one of which we'll talk about super soon. And there's super recognizable and whatever, but kind of little flourishes, little changes in key, little different tempo changes type of stuff that ends up making it a good listen.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the best Doom soundtracks. I would still personally put the Aubrey Hodges soundtracks at the top, that he had done for the custom PlayStation edition as well as Doom 64. I do think those are the best soundtracks. This might be right behind those for me, though, too, because you are getting sort of the classic tunes from the PC game, but reworked and kind of reimagined.
Yep.
And it's not the 32x version, which I love 32x Doom, but it sounds terrible. Because, why work on things and make them work when you can rush it out by Christmas?
There you go.
So let's talk about the individual tracks. It starts with a very short track, main title, just kind of an opening music cue. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so not hard to have a lot of thoughts on it. It comes and goes pretty quick. It's kind of like all the work that Brian Eno went into to create one of the Windows tones. It's like, okay, now I've got it. I was like, oh, okay, good job. So particularly interesting here is that this ended up never being used. They ended up doing some other things for the title sequence, but as far as a couple of notes for a title sequence goes, good job, guys. Like it.
Nailed it. Next we have At Doom's Gate. I suspect this is one of those ones you said was still very recognizable.
Yeah, very much. I mean, it is. You're in Doom. As soon as it starts playing, it's just you're playing Doom. You can absolutely tell. Um, I'm not as knowledgeable as you are in all things music to tell you what all the little nuance changes are, but this is a great version of it. It stays incredibly true to you. Know exactly what this is, but there's a cleanness to it, and that and it's just that driving Doom song, and so I'm always happy when I play Doom, and I'm always happy when I hear this. So great start. One of my, not surprisingly, one of my favorite tracks on this.
Yeah, one of my favorite, absolutely. Probably my favorite on this, just because it's what I identify most sound wise with the original Doom. Even though the Aubrey Hodges scores are my favorite from a music standpoint, as soon as I hear this song, any version of it, it's immediately I'm into Doom, into playing Doom. So we're following that up with the Imps song. What are your thoughts on the Imps and their music, sir?
So I'm a big Imp fan. I mean, I don't particularly like running across them in the game, but I like the execution of them. I think they're a cool character to have in this universe and stuff, and highly irritating to hear in the game. Um, this song's pretty cool. I actually, in kind of listening through it this time, started to go, if the song "Real Wild One" got mutated somewhat and doomified, that's this song. And so it has a little bit of that Real Wild One mojo to it, but which is perfect for imps. So
Nice. I'm gonna have to go and re-listen to it now. That
yeah,
was definitely not
I think
what I
you'll
was
pick that up.
imagining. All right, and that is followed up by Dark Halls. This is another one that personally I think is recognizable if you played a lot of Doom.
Yep. Um, and strikes that interesting combination of having kind of a brightness to the song and ominous to the song, kind of both, which is kind of a twist, kind of a difficult thing to pull off, but they do. But yeah, another kind of tone poem that when you hear, you're back in Doom World 100%.
And you did kind of hint on something that I think is interesting with this. So Doom, to me, the soundtrack, while it does have ominous tones and stings and points throughout it, the original Doom score to me is more of an action movie score. While it does have those kind of ominous moments to it, it didn't go full horror until PlayStation and Nintendo 64 to me.
Yep, I'd agree. I mean, it's definitely um, action, driving, pace kind of thing, a build to them, without a doubt.
And we follow that up with, I lost my place already, Dark Halls. Thoughts on Dark Halls, sir? The song, not just Dark Hallways in general.
Hey, wasn't that the one you just asked about?
Dark Halls,
Yeah, what was the song you asked about before Dark Halls?
the M song.
I think you asked about Dark Halls twice.
Did
I
I?
talked about the M song being Wild One on Ludes. But so we'll either handle it as an edit, but I have in my notes for Dark Halls bright and ominous. So
Oh, okay.
We'll
I don't I don't think we did though.
okay. We'll get done. I'll check the tape.
I think I'm correct here. I don't think we
There'll
did
be a
Dark
section.
Halls.
Mike and Kelly argue over what tape you're on. Then it'll
So
be a
moving right along,
yes.
Kitchen Ace and Taking Names. First off, great song title.
Yep.
On a score like this, you don't need to put work into the song titles, but they did.
Yep.
And I appreciate that.
Yep. It's one of those things, and then you're always crossing your fingers when you see like some Alice titles we've had in the past that you're like, oh, this is going to be great, and you're like, sometimes a lot of the work went into the title, not so much into the song. Not a lot for Alice because most of the stuff's great, but occasionally that would have happened. But this one's got that, and it was what you were just talking about earlier. The kind of action-oriented, kind of action movie kind of feel to the music, and the Doom build, where it's kind of like it doesn't start pedestrian to begin with. Any of the stuff, it's got a drive to it begin with, but then it's just kind of like the RPMs just kind of pick up more and more and more on it. And the intensity picks up. And this is another great example of that.
I completely agree with that. And now we're getting into, we're moving right along. We are up to the 6th track, Suspense. I don't think this is, particularly well named, but it is one of the more tense sounding tracks on there that moves away from the more driving kind of rock sound of it. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so agree 100% that it's that shift. It's got almost a choral feel to it, which has not been present so far in any of the other stuff. So it is that definite kind of tone shift, which plays super well with the game too, as you sometimes depending on which environment you're in and kind of shift into to kind of have that underpinning music all of a sudden really take a left turn and go into a different space. Good. I like this one. I said it was nice to kind of see the introduction of more of a choral kind of sound to it.
That brings us to On the Hunt. We're getting into some of the leaner songs now. Not that, other than that short intro, we've been barely breaking the 2 to 2.5 minute mark up until this point. But now towards the back half of the album, we get a little bit shorter with some of these cues, getting into the minute to minute and a half mark. And this is the first one that dips down into there, excluding that little intro.
So On the Hunt, if I were to have a former German Tiger tank and painted it black and put flames on the side of it and used it to drive down the road to chase down Hanson to shoot at them, the song I would be playing is Under Cover of the Night by the Rolling Stones. That would be on infinite replay as I hunted them down. If that was not available, due to copyright restrictions, I was unable to play on my tank's loudspeakers.
I like that they would copyright claim your murder.
Just like we are not, as a Stone said, I was like, may I please, while I murder Hanson, can I play Undercover in the Night? And if they declined, then this would be my next one up because it's good hunting music. It's good, it's kind of got that kind of chase element to it. And so it'd be my second choice.
That is a good choice, sir. So that brings us to Demons on the Prey. Any thoughts on this one, sir?
So I'm going to read you the entirety of my notes on Demons on the Prey. Meh. It was okay. Kind of enjoying a lot of these other things. I got a backup Hanson killing song. It's all good, feeling pretty good. And this one was just like, that's okay. It just didn't do a lot for me one way or
Yeah,
another.
I'm kind of in the same place with that one. I mean, it's a strong score, but this is one of the tracks that I don't think you can really divorce too much from the game. Whereas, when you have at Doomsgate and things like that you could I could listen to just as standalone songs on my headphones taking a walk or whatever. So moving right along here, we're going so fast. We're going almost too fast. We should slow it down. Moving right along is Sign of Evil. This is one of the tracks that to me really kind of stands out on the album as just recognizable, and I'm in the Doom headspace.
Yeah, really like this song. You know, of the instruments or sounds that you think would make sense in Doom to hear bells come across as there probably should have been more bells earlier in this, but there really hasn't been. This is the first occurrence of bells in the Doom soundtrack, and they are needed because they're needed in this environment, and they're used to great effect, and get that kind of ominous bell tone going. So I welcome the bells and enjoyed the song because of that.
I also like the addition of the bells, and it does make sense in the context of the game. I agree with that as well. So that brings us to the 10th track, Hiding the Secrets. So one of the things that I've always liked about Doom, just kind of getting off on a little bit of a tangent, is the secrets in the game and trying to find all of them. And particularly when that does lead you in a couple of instances to full on secret levels in the game. I always think that they're fun to unlock. I find finding them and unlocking the secret levels more fun than the secret levels themselves. I don't know how you feel about hidden content in games.
So I think it's cool. We've established in past conversations around Doom that I'm directionally challenged, which makes the Doom a tough play for me in a lot of ways. And so I'm already, it's just trying to remember. Okay, there was a red door somewhere. I got the key. I remember seeing that red door. Where was it at? How did I get back to it? And so I'm spending a lot of processing power just to cover the basics, just to get back to the damn red door. That's so then to throw on top of it, oh, by the way, there's some stuff hidden, that you may not have noticed. I'm like, hell, I didn't even notice how I got here. And so you're expecting me to notice, oh, that wall texture is a little bit different. Maybe I should go over and press it. And so because of my limitations, it's a bit of a burden on the secret stuff, but I do think it adds a ton to the game. And they're super cool when you find them. And so, but I kind of agree with you too that it's the discovery part that's a lot bigger than the actual playing of whatever secret level or that kind of stuff. With the exception of some of the secret stuff where you score like some really nice things, a chain gun, and some of those things is all right.
Very nice. So track number 11, I sawed the demons. Now, obviously, we're a fan of puns here. I think that that goes without saying. And of course, this is SAWED, as in sawing, because you would get the chainsaw in the game. Now, obviously, I want to know your thoughts on the track. What are your thoughts on the chainsaw as a weapon as well, within the context of the game, not in real life?
Um, so okay, setting aside Hansen again, and I'm gonna go a little more long range with Hansen. I think it's the Tiger tank has many armaments. Chainsaw is not one of them. The so in the context of the game, I mean, a big one like the pinkies and that kind of stuff. All time favorite way to take pinkies out is the chainsaw. I think that's kind of what it was made for. So I like it. You do get in some tight quarters sometimes, so it's a nice way to take folks out and not hit an errant barrel and blow yourself up and all that. So I like it. I like it as a weapon. I think it's a really cool addition, and a good option to have. So, but not the best imp weapon. If you got imps, this is not, because they can claw and plus they ranged, and so. But for the right victim, give me that chainsaw. Plus you get to save your ammo. Where are you at on that?
Kind of the same thing. I do love using the chainsaw. I thought it was so cool when I saw that it was a weapon that you could use within the game. It's not as practical as say the shotgun though, when you're trying to play through the game until you get to a group of pinkies, and then it's great.
Yep, fair enough.
And your thoughts on the song, sir?
So, so again, it's one when you hear you're totally immersed in Doom again. It's about that. It's really kind of at Doom's Gate 2. It is a companion piece to that, which makes it pretty great. As a song and all that. So I thought another very strong one, another one of my favorite tracks on it. But it's part of it's because it's close affiliation with that Doom's Gate.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the 12th track on here, and that is Donna to the Rescue. I mean, obvious title for anybody who's playing Doom. Your thoughts, sir?
So welcome the bells a few songs back. And This one's kind of funky. It's got, there's when you think of Doom, you usually don't think about, yeah, let's have a music with a little bit of funk going on with it. This is as close as Doom music gets to funky, which is, again, a nice little shift. So thanks, Donna, for that. I guess she rescued us by giving us slightly funky music. So actually, one of my favorite tracks on here was this one because of just its difference and just kind of a fun listen.
I would love if this could just now be renamed Slightly Funky Donna.
Yeah, there you go. I think that would be all right.
I think that's a better title. So that, speaking of song titles, brings us to the untitled track on the album. Where the game is winding down at this point. We're getting towards the end. Your thoughts are, how does this make you feel at this stage of the game as well, being this late into it?
Um. So, yay! I made it this far. um. And again, I think part of I think some of the thinking was to make some distinction to the soundtrack as you go deeper. I could be wrong, but I don't believe we've heard a lot of horns in the previous. It's been a lot of guitar, a lot of electric stuff going on prior synthesizer. I don't think we've heard horns or a synthesizer making horn like sounds. So this one was kind of neat, and I think it's kind of an opportunity lost because of all the instruments that you could use for a Doom soundtrack. Why would you not want to use horns? Because it seems
Oh yeah, they really did miss out, and
miss.
especially on the pun. And you can tell from the titles they were into the puns.
Yeah, see, they could have, you know, on the horns of a dilemma. There you go, guys. But
Well, that brings us to our final track, Sweet Little Dead Bunny. So first off, probably one of the greatest song titles of all time. We can just throw
absolutely.
that out there. And of course, it is the soundtrack to the closing of Doom. So how long did it take you to beat Doom when you initially got it?
Quite a while. Again, we've covered direction issues. And so I
Now,
don't
have you played it enough to where the direction issues aren't like an issue? Like you just know your way around some of the maps?
no, nope. Because it's just there's a broken synapse somewhere on directional stuff.
It's just new to
And
you every time.
yeah, it's kind of like, okay, I kind of remember. I think it's this way, but it when I I grew up in northern Indiana. I went to college in central Illinois. The roads to get from there to there didn't change over time, but I actually had to have them written down and follow them on the many, 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 many trips that I went back and forth because just doesn't stick. So it took me a while to do it. So, but I got there, but it took a super long time. So I mean, but just and part of it too was while kind of continuing to progress through the game was fun. It was a lot of the cooperative stuff and death match kind of fun stuff that I started doing as well, which is one of my favorite parts of Doom was to do a little co-op mode and then decide, okay, and usually I'd be the one that would decide to say, oh, we're shifting from cooperating with each other to trying to kill each other, and I'll start it off. I'll let you know when we start by, oh, I don't know, firing a rocket launcher into your back, and that would
Fair.
be the official starting pistol to go on, and I'd be up one. There you go. It took a long time. I expect you're a gifted gamer, so I assume you probably kind of locked in on it pretty quick and got all the way through fairly quickly.
Yeah, so I initially had the shareware version, which was just the first episode of the game, which a lot of people thought was the whole game at that time and didn't realize because Doom had it. I noticed obviously in hindsight people talk about this now, but I remember at the time a lot of my friends, and I wasn't too much of a PC gamer. I was definitely more of a console gamer, but I enjoyed PC games. But I had friends who were not PC gamers at all, but that kind of lured them away from the consoles a little bit until the consoles started getting their Doom ports because everybody wanted to play Doom. So I think it definitely for the console players at that time. Now, of course, we're used to games being released episodically and countless amounts of DLC for games to bleed every penny from the
Yeah.
players. But at that time, that was probably a new concept to a lot of the console people who were just trying out Doom. So I understand why people didn't realize there was more game there that they had to go and buy separately from that. When I did play the full game though, this was right after that kind of opening song that we talked about after the little intro. This was probably my favorite track on there.
Yeah, a unique sound, one we've not heard. Very demented, very almost Alice Cooper Steven like in
Yeah,
your wind up
absolutely.
toy or that kind of stuff, where it's just got that super twisted uh, uh, demon in the attic kind of thing going.
This definitely seems like it could be like the intro music for an Alice show.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. But a fun one nonetheless, and a fantastic title.
Absolutely. Well, that's everything for this soundtrack. What's your overall thoughts are? Where does this fall on the Doom music scale for you?
So I'm not as immersed when Doom all caps in 2016 or so, I think is when it came out, when the kind of Doom the Next Generation came out with a pronounced different soundtrack. I'm not familiar enough to really put it head to head, but it's gonna be hard to top. This is kind of what I grew up with. This is what I really, really liked. And this particular execution, um, it's all good on everything. PC stuff's great and all that. This is kind of a notch better to me. I think it's really, really well executed. So I would put it pretty high. I'll have to go back, because it is kind of unique content with Doom 64 and kind of compare it to that, some of the other ones you were talking about, the PlayStation version. So I don't really have a strong frame of reference for that, but from what I've heard, I like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, I do think this edges out the original PC game. I love the soundtrack to the original PC game. It does edge it out. It's also once you realize that it does rip off other songs, for me personally, it kind of detracts from it slightly because it becomes, and I'm not even just talking about the ripping off the songs, it becomes distracting because then I'm recognizing those songs instead of a good score should be able to stand on its own, but it should be complementing what you're looking at when it's in the context of being a score, not distracting you from it. Um, but it's not the highest for me. It is below those Aubrey Hodges scores for both Doom 64 and PlayStation Doom.
Fair enough. Yep, but go back after the show. I mean, one of the things we're going to do is review the tape for an earlier debate and kind
Which
of see
I'm
what.
totally right about.
I don't think so.
I definitely am.
It will depending on the situation. The edit will either reflect no, he wasn't, or you're not going to see any of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So,
Kelly could just put that I wasn't anyway and edit it so it looks like I wasn't.
I'll just repeat the same section twice.
Yeah.
He did that. But outside of that, go back and listen to Im's song and let me know if you hear the I'm a Real Wild One.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely gonna listen to that tonight.
Cool. Well, let us know what you guys think about this version. And if you have any other recommendations for us on other video game soundtracks to kind of pick apart piece by piece and figure out how I can apply it to Hunting Down Hanson, appreciate hearing about that. So, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.